Welcome to Inland Empire Alive, bringing you issues, events, and perspectives from throughout San Bernardino and Riverside counties. I'm David Brady, and on today's show, I'll welcome Aaron Rivera, owner of The Frugal Frigate, an independent children's bookstore in downtown Redlands since 1988. That's today on Inland Empire Alive. Well, I am delighted to welcome my next guest here to talk about all things books, reading, and imagination is Aaron Rivera, the owner of The Frugal Frigate, a landmark children's bookstore in Redlands since 1988. Aaron, welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say you probably have not owned the shop since 1988.
I have not. Thank you.
Tell me how you got involved.
I was hired by the original owner. I'm the fifth owner. I was hired by the original owner in 1994. She gave me my first job when I was a sophomore in high school.
Now, back then, bookstores, that was a very different industry. I remember the hours and hours I spent, B. Dalton, Walden Books, Crown, Brentano. Talk to me about the landscape today.
We have lost so many of our indie bookstores. So many of our bookstore chains are gone. It's a very different landscape today with online shopping than it was 30 years ago. So these spaces are beloved by their communities. People seek out bookstores. I know even before I bought the bookstore, I've always loved books. So whenever I would travel, I would find the bookstore in that town.
Now, this is specifically a children's literature bookstore.
Specifically, yes, that's our specialty. We do have a room for grown-ups, but we are known as a children's bookstore, and that is where we thrive.
What spoke to you about children's books? And again, everybody grows up with the classics, the Charlotte's Web, the Dr. Seuss, the Shel Silverstein, all of those names that we know. What sparked that love in you?
When I was read to as a child from a very early age. I remember my mother reading me The Wizard of Oz when I was 5, and I hadn't seen the film, so I didn't know the story. And she loves to tell me, she's like, you knew when it changed into color. As I was reading it, you said, wait a minute, everything's bright now. And so it's using that imagination, and I've never lost that. And I that's one of the things that I want for everyone is don't lose that. Keep that childlike wonder, be able to look at things through a child's lens and appreciate even the small things and use it to send you off into other directions.
You've anticipated something I wanted to ask about. I know that in addition to books, you sell additional things, plush toys, journals, stationery cards, all sorts of things to stir the imagination. Why is the imagination so important? And again, I know this is getting way out in the weeds, we're talking, it's a bookstore, talk about books. No, but why is imagination so vital?
I think it's just important to be a dreamer. You need to be grounded, obviously, and we have to live in reality, but I think that the best ideas and the new ideas come when we just sort of let our mind wander and find some sort of inspiration. And the other thing is that books to me, they will trigger something that you can relate to personally. So it might be a story that it's not your story, but the emotions are there. And now you can relate that to something in your life, and maybe it helps you think of if you're struggling with a problem, now there's a solution you hadn't thought of before. If you are in a very joyful place and you just see someone else's joy and it just kind of, exponentially grows from that. Like
we're surviving, and it gives you hope that if they can survive, this terrible circumstance, I can too. Or if, they're undergoing something terrible and I'm alone, living in my little suburban life thinking nobody feels what I feel. No, I'm not. Tell me about the children's works specifically that spoke to you as a kid. Were there authors, were there titles that were like you say, beloved? I mean, I know I read Judy Blume, there was almost nothing I wouldn't get my hands on.
Yeah, I loved all different genres, actually. I loved the funny books, like the Beverly Cleary books. I loved the spooky books, like the Wait Till Helen Comes, or the ghost stories, things like that. Mary Downing Hahn. Picture books, I remember Tasha Tudor illustrations just being gorgeous, these beautiful, beautiful illustrations that would let you kind of see into these fairy tale worlds. that was something that was different than what you'd see on TV.
One of the things I'm curious about is some children's literature classics are so beloved that people almost become unwilling to entertain new works and new authors. How do you get people to move off of some of those, the faces carved into Mount Rushmore, the equivalents, and try something new and try some different voices that maybe haven't gotten as much exposure?
That's a great question, because that happens to us probably weekly. We have someone
We're
come
not talking
in.
about canceling anybody.
No.
We're just literally saying, there are some great works that have been written since 1945, and
Right, like someone will come in and they're buying a gift for a baby shower, and maybe this was what they read when they were little, and this is what they want to give, and it's not in print anymore, just because books go in and out of print all the time. But we can find something similar to it, and it's kind of fun. We take it as a fun challenge to see if we can find something to replace this beloved thing in their heart, and maybe show them something new that will create a new space right next to it.
We will be back with more with Erin Rivera, owner of the Frugal Frigate Children's Bookstore in Redlands, right after these messages.
Animal Services needs you. Do you love animals and are looking for a way to help the shelter? We have foster and volunteer opportunities year-round. We need foster parents who can advocate for their foster pets' adoption. The shelter has many dogs, cats, kittens, and puppies that could benefit from a foster home. Some animals, especially underage ones like Cole here, require more care than the shelter can provide. Most of the time, they only need a few weeks of TLC before they are ready to be adopted out. For more information, you can visit the Foster tab on www.sbcitypets.org. If you need help selecting a foster pet, email our foster team at fosterpet@sbcity.org. Want to say hi, Cole?
If you'd like to be a guest on Inland Empire Alive, email us at guest@iealive.com. Well, I'm talking with Erin Rivera, the owner of the Frugal Frigate, a children's bookstore in Redlands since 1988. We're talking about the power of books. We know historically that books have the power to change minds, to change hearts, to bring down governments. Is there trepidation in being on the front line of some of those battles, in trying to defend the artistic integrity, the works, against people who may not understand the messages, the stories, the value?
I don't think trepidation is the right word for it. I think anyone who owns an independent bookstore in this day and age, we are the kind of people that expect that. We expect to be receiving pushback on certain things. Our mission at my store is we want any child to be able to walk in and find themselves on the shelf somewhere. And that means carrying a vast variety of books that show differences and all walks of life. And there are people that don't want that for children. And to that I say, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to read it. You don't have to give it. I wish you would, because I think books being windows into other experiences is kind of what helps unite us as humans. But we are definitely on the front lines. I will say, I think that teachers and librarians have it harder because they are public servants, basically, and working with public funding. And so
at the whim of elected officials.
Correct. And so they have, I have the luxury of having a private space. I can do what I want.
Well, can you talk about the challenges of, as you say, being an independent bookstore? I mean, again, so much competition has disappeared. Books haven't disappeared. Books have not gone away, but the places to get them have, and the ways to get them have.
Yes, and that has been a large challenge of the last 2 decades. But the people that really love books, love reading, they want to come in and they want to talk about it. They want to come in.
They don't want an algorithm.
They do not want an algorithm. They want a human being.
They want a bookstore owner. They want a librarian.
Booksellers over algorithms.
They want a teacher. Before I let you go, I wanted to talk a little bit about an upcoming event at the University of Redlands. Tell me a little bit about the Charlotte S. Huck Children's Literature Festival. I understand it's in its 28th year this year.
It is. It's its 28th year. I actually, when I worked at the store the first time, in 1997, was the first festival, and I was a bookseller there, and our owner, Catherine Thomerson, was part of the founding board that started that festival at the University of Redlands. And Charlotte Huck, in her retirement, moved to Redlands to be close to family, specifically her nieces. And her niece, Charlotte, named after Charlotte, she is still on the board and running this festival 28 years later. Charlotte was instrumental in recognizing the importance of children's literature and getting children to read. She has a professorship that's named after her back east, in Ohio, and she was instrumental in bringing things to different states and just kind of opening up the idea of that we're not just looking at, Dick and Jane books and, See Spot Run, like that books need to speak to the emotional and to the heart of children so that we can learn who we are.
Right, they can be just as sophisticated as the greatest novel.
Yes, I still give children's books as gifts. I think that all adults should read children's books. There are messages in there.
Well, one thing that struck me about looking at your website is the idea of curating gifts. That someone may come in and say, well, these are some of my tastes, these are the things I like, and you will actually come up with recommendations based on that. And again, algorithms can attempt that, but that they really, I think, kind of miss something.
I just put together a curated bundle yesterday for someone. But yes, we do. We like to offer that, especially at the holidays. If you don't know what, you have a reader in the family, but you don't know what they have, come to us and we'll tell you what's new that fits their interests. And we do it two ways. You can be surprised, or you can have final say. Like, we will send you, here's what we've chosen, here's
Veto
the information.
power.
Yeah, what do you think?
All right. Well, before I let you go, I want to make sure people know how to visit the shop. It is the Frugal Frigate, an independent children's bookstore in historic downtown Redlands at 9 North 6th Street. The phone number is 909-793-0740. The website is frugalfrigate.com. Story time every Saturday
At 10:30.
All right. Erin, thank you so much for coming on the program. It has been a delight, and all the best to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Visit iealive.com.